has appointed the offices of rulers and councils for the welfare of society and the just government of man. We beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in thy presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. All which we ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Before we proceed, I just wanted to reiterate the announcement I made yesterday in regards to adhering to protocols as imposed on us by the COVID-19 pandemic. You'll see that we have a podium here this morning. We have Mr. Bruno here with us. He will be sanitizing the podium when members who are not sitting in the front row are presenting. We are doing that to ensure that we safeguard members of this honorable house. I just want to reiterate, since in this debate, I will not be really intervening too much. I want to give people as much leeway to make their points. But as I usually do, I caution that be guided according to the standing orders and do unto others as you would like them to do unto you in this debate.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Rule 73(3), I move that the debate on the motion be commenced today, 29th July 2020 at 10 a.m.
It has been moved and seconded that in accordance with Rule 73(3), that the debate on the motion continue at 10 a.m. today, Wednesday, 29th July 2020. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. According to my record yesterday, my record shows that the Prime Minister started the debate at 10:10 and ended at 11:54. So there is an hour and 45 minutes time duration by the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Honorable Leader of the Opposition be allotted the same time as the Honorable Prime Minister in delivering the budget address for his response.
Yes, Honorable Minister, you would have to quote Rule 41(6). Yeah.
Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, therefore, I move for the suspension of Rule 41(6), so that the Leader of the Opposition can have the same time taken by the Minister of Finance in his reply to the budget. Ministers will be permitted to speak as usual for an hour, and other members of this Honorable House for 30 minutes, as provided for in the rules.
It has been, anyone seconding this motion?
I beg to second, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that Rule 41.6 be suspended so that the Leader of Opposition be permitted to have the same time taken by the Minister of Finance for his reply to the budget. Ministers will speak for 1 hour and other members for 30 minutes as provided by the rules. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is before the House for debate. So, Member for Marigot, Leader of Opposition, you are permitted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As you do at the commencement of every sitting of this Honorable House, and for emphasis at the start of this budget debate, I pray the words of divine guidance intended to align our spirits with His justice, grace, His mercy, and His peace. Almighty God, who in thy infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and councils for the welfare of society and the just government of man, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in Dominica. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this house assembled, and grant that we may, as in thy presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and so advance the good of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. All which we ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. We give thanks, we give praise for all those sacrificing on the front line of the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. All those who labored above and beyond the call of duty to ensure that at this stage of 17 million cases and over 650,000 deaths worldwide, the 18 people infected with the virus here on the authentic, COVID-resilient nature island of the world have recovered fully. Good job. Good job. We extend sympathies to those who have lost loved ones around the world. We empathize with those who have contracted the virus and who are either recovering or struggling for their lives. We stand in solidarity, resilience, and faithfulness with our embattled brothers and sisters in Dominica and around the world. In the presentation of the Budget Statement 2020-2021, a question was posed. I paraphrase. Quote, "In a time of trial, what must we do to achieve our transformation into prosperity for all? What must we do to achieve our transformation into prosperity for all?" End of quote. Well, we must accept, first of all, and understand that righteousness exalts the nation, but sin is a reproach to its people. Oppression victimization and discrimination onto the least of our brothers and sisters is oppression, victimization, and discrimination to all of us. Prosperity for all will only be realized in a just society and an equal opportunity economy where Dominican lives truly matter. Mr. Speaker, it was reported in this honorable House that naysayers doubted the new Marigot Hospital would ever be built. Really? After all the pleading and begging and beseeching for over 6 years inside and outside of this Parliament for the hospital to be built, after suffering so many preventable deaths in the Northeast Health District on account of the closure of the Marigot Hospital for termite infestation more than 6 years ago, this is the most savvy politics that the Prime Minister can play to cover up neglect, incompetence, and spitefulness for the people of Marigot. Almost 100 years ago, the people of Marigot built their own hospital. We are happy that construction of the hospital facility is finally progressing at a quick pace and will be completed in April 2021. Mr. Speaker, the public sector investment program for this financial year and for the one before it, for the financial year just ended on the 30th of June. That's the 2019-2020 financial year. Shows no spending on the hospital, even though upwards of $8 million was spent before the end of the close of the financial year on June 30th, 2020. And what this means, at least to me, at least to us in the parliamentary opposition, is that the money to build the hospital did not go into and is not coming out of Dominica's consolidated fund as the constitutional rule of law requires. But we are satisfied that the money is Dominica's money. And whatever private interest is spending it to build the Marigot Hospital, the Marigot Hospital on the land of Sonny George belongs to the people of Marigot and surrounding communities, and there will be no issues. There will be no issues of legal ownership down the road. Mr. Speaker, the community has urgent needs requiring adequate allocation of public funds. In agriculture, we need feeder roads, development for the Barrow-Tantan Road, the Tantan-Pegua Road, the Captain Bruce Road, the Rose Hill-Mount George Road, the Coffee Road, the Craig Melville Hall Road, the completion of the Lyons-Sunley Road. We need a proper facility for the agriculture extension unit. We need a food processing and packaging facility for export of produce. We need a plant nursery for the production of planting materials such as vegetable seedlings, citrus, pears, cocoa, coconuts, and other plants. We need spraymen to get paid so they can spray the bananas and plantain fields as often as required in defense against the Sigatoka disease. We need proper management and non-politicization of the World Bank project in order to achieve the desired results. We need more shipping access to regional agricultural markets. In education and sport and recreation, we need to immediately refurbish and upgrade the Will Strathmore Stevens School. No roof, tarpaulin since Maria. We need government to work with the village councils from Marigot and Wesley to develop the Londonderry playing field as well as the Lyo Park in Marigot. And we commend the Marigot Village Council, in particular under the chairmanship of Chairman Stacia, for the excellent work done at Lyo Park in recent months. The Concord multipurpose hard court needs to be repaired and upgraded. Ministry of Tourism needs to include Marigot sites, Marigot events and festivities as part of the National Tourism Promotion Program and its calendar of activities. Or segment of the National Trail needs to be completely developed and maintained. Our economic concerns include the continued victimization of Marigot small business owners through persistent denial of access to state resources. We have suffered significant loss of income and business due to COVID-19. No assistance, no stimulus. Many residents have lost their jobs. Although the government is renting houses for a health center in Marigot, Mr. Speaker, the people of Marigot continue to travel to Wesley for health services. The dam bridge, yes, the dam bridge, and the accompanying retaining wall is still not yet complete, notwithstanding all the hurried work that was done to make a point around election time. The broken road at dam in front of the property of Ellsworth Prévost continues to pose a serious threat to pedestrians and other motorists. We are operating with less hurricane shelters due to the failure of the government to repair damaged shelters. The people in the community who still need assistance with housing repair years after Maria. All of our village roads, including the Marigot portion of the Nicholas-Liverpool Highway, are in dire need of urgent repairs. The bridge at Bay needs to be upgraded. The Mantipo Bridge needs to be able to accommodate 2 lanes as well as proper pedestrian sidewalk. It is time to settle the long-standing ownership issues existing at Melville Hall in the interest of our residents. And I don't know who is going to do that, whether it is the Ministry of Housing or it is Housing Dominica. But somebody must deal with it because it's out of our hands and we need the assistance. For more than 2 decades, Mr. Speaker, Marigot, one of the most progressive and productive communities in this country, has been deliberately and systematically deprived of adequate resources for the road network, for housing, for health, for small business and village economy priorities. But Marigot is still standing. Weapons formed against the chosen representatives of Marigot have not, cannot, and will not prosper. The righteous, just Christian people of good conscience in Marigot will never be forsaken, nor will they be condemned to begging bread. We press on to become a self-sufficient, full employment eco-city with modern education, health, sporting and recreational facilities, a road network that effectively connects the residential, commercial, agricultural, tourist and recreational areas, first world water and sanitation services, 100% of our energy requirements from wind and solar, the minimum 4G platform for world-class ICT functionality. We will not fail. Our faith is beyond question. Our courage is exemplary. We shall overcome. Mr. Speaker, on the 10th of February this year, we learned in this Honorable House that government had overspent the approved 2018-2019 budget by $322 million. The presentation of a supplementary appropriation bill to retire the massive amount advanced from the contingency fund more than 7 months after the close of the financial year is a clear violation of Section 80, subsection 2 of the Constitution. But regrettably, Mr. Speaker, that kind of behavior has become the norm and not the exception for members of an executive who are increasingly hostile to parliamentary oversight of public finances. We were told that the $322 million overspent without parliamentary approval was just fine, notwithstanding the blinding evidence of election year campaign spending through public works, through the Housing Ministry, the National Employment Program, and the Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency in particular. With the election behind us, though, spending of $25.8 million in 2018-2019 and $28.6 million in 2019-2020 on the NEP, the National Employment Program.
Member, just pause a sec. I just wanted to just remind you that you're debating the 2020-2021 budget, a response to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister focus was forward, not in 2019 and 2018. So I just wanted to caution you in regards to your relevance.
To be clear, the Prime Minister's forward focus, however you choose to describe it, is not going to prevent me from referring to examples of performance in this honorable House through the budget cycle that impact us where we are right now. And in fact, Mr. Speaker...
Well, my intention wasn't to intervene too much. That's why I said earlier, but in that matter, I must intervene in regards to your relevance to the budget debate of 2020-2021.
I am only saying...
That's all I'm saying, but you can continue.
Yeah, I'm only saying that with the election behind us now, spending of $28.5 million in 2018-2019 and $28.6 million in 2019-2020 on the NEP has come tumbling down to $9.5 million for this budget year, 2020-2021. A whopping 67% decrease year on year. On the Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency, we spent $37 million in 2018-2019 and $15 million in 2019-2020. The budget estimate for 2020-2021 is $5 million. $5 million, 1/3 of the prior year, and only 14% of the rapid response spend in 2018-2019. There was a clear boast that the unbudgeted spending of $322 million was locally funded, and the indication was that it was all CBI money, except that the 2018-2019 CBI income of $226 million, less administrative expenses of $102 million, net CBI income of $124 million by itself was inadequate. Turns out that government's funding package for the $322 million in excessive spending also included $86 million from the state's deposits at NBD and $115 million from the increase of the government's NBD overdraft, a total of $201 million. The increase of the overdraft, well beyond the legal limit, gave government a 25% share of all NBD loans and advances at June 30th, 2019. So the story of budget year 2018-2019 is quite remarkable, with implications for where we are now. Approved spending of $1.05 billion, exceeded by $322 million, but government failed to deliver 23% of the development projects approved for the financial year July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. Still, Mr. Speaker, the 20-year practice of silence on the implementation of budget allocations after approval by Parliament continues its merry roll down the stream of absurdity. Under our watch, there will be periodic budget performance reviews that allow Parliament to note the trend of overall collection and spending and prepare Cabinet to reassess budget alignment with fiscal objectives and development priorities. We will have budget execution reports, including in-year and audited year-end reports designed to yield useful improvement messages on performance and on value for money. The parliamentary budget oversight focus will be on integrated budget formulation systems and monitoring procedures that are coherent and consistent across all levels of governance in the public interest. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of relevance and credibility, the economic growth strategy associated with the national budget in our democracy must be assessed in the context of the economic management performance of government side by side with existing national development realities and challenges. The allocations of revenue and expenditure for the financial year 2019-2021, and the budget statement that presents them for the approval of Parliament lack relevance and they lack credibility. They are not about national development of the people, by the people, for the people. They are, regrettably, about the practice of governance for personal gain by leaders that have disconnected themselves from the people they are sworn to serve. Leaders who seem unconsciously committed to violate the oath, quote, to honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution and to discharge the responsibilities of public office, quote, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. The single biggest national development challenge facing Dominica at this time is the need to eliminate the dangerous threat posed to our sovereignty and identity as a nation. These twin elements, sovereignty and identity, are now up for sale. And by extension, our national psyche is in the global marketplace being traded to hell in handbaskets of Dominica passport money by friends of Dominica's ruling party regime. Proposals in this budget and the performance of this government in handling approved budgets of recent years in particular confirm that Dominica is being transformed in the image and likeness of those who don't have our values. They don't believe in them. They don't share the ethos of our society. They're not interested in our values and our norms. The sale of our passports, Mr. Speaker, the very element within our national revenue stream intended to improve our quality of life, is being used to cripple the character of our nation and cast the darkest clouds over our nature island space. Mr. Speaker, Dominica is in danger. After decades of independence, we are now on the verge of recolonization. Our forefathers earned the right for this country to be governed by its sons and daughters, and today, those who govern are selling our national identity by allowing their foreign friends under the guise of citizenship by investment to illegally collect and corruptly spend billions of dollars belonging to our people for their personal gain. In this day and age, impoverished citizens yearning for a better life are being enslaved by ruling party puppets of their passport-selling masters behind the bars of need for food, clothing, and shelter assistance provided by the state, while foreigners are allowed to plunder hundreds of millions from the public purse with impunity. Member,
just a sec. When you use illegally, you use plunder, you are not trying to impute improper motive, but this is imputing improper motive. You are actually implying directly, actually, that the regime is part and parcel of it. I'd ask you to withdraw that entire section that deals with illegally and plundering. Please, so you can continue your debate.
You don't like the word illegal?
No, you say illegally, so who is illegally doing it?
You don't like the word plundering?
No, again, if we were not in the Honorable House, you could be sued for those statements if you are wrong. If you are correct, then it's okay. But I'm just saying, yes, but that's why I'm saying that to continue, you need to withdraw those statements because they are imputing improper motives. For the stenotypists, I just wanted you to note that that entire section there, we will strike it out. from illegally.
Which entire section?
Yeah, from illegally. But
Mr. Speaker, it is a fact of life in Dominica, and it is known around Dominica, regardless of how little we want to talk about it in Parliament or not at all, and regardless of how much we want to sweep it under the carpet, it is a known fact that with our own passport money, foreign friends of this ruling party regime are deciding who will contest elections for political party that has failed the people miserably in government for 20 years, how many hundreds of millions will be spent to buy elections and defeat the will of the people.
That is, in fact, Mr. Speaker, directly imputing improper motives. To sit in this parliament and to say that foreign people are deciding on who contests election in this country, there cannot be a better example. And Mr. Speaker, you're asking to remove from illegally, but I think that whole section on the CBI was in fact imputing improper motives. That whole section, including this one, should be struck off the records of the Parliament.
I agree with you. Again, that's why I am trying to guide. You see, my intention was not to intervene in a budget debate where I expected a little nice back and forth based on research. I just wanted to just alert the member and also to educate the general public. This Honorable House, members are protected by law. So we are immune in this Honorable House. But what the people or the public and the members in the House need to understand, that if you make a statement in the House, but if you were to do it outside, you could be sued, then you know clearly that is imputing improper motive. So I would ask the member, again, to withdraw the statement as the Honorable Minister for Housing has pointed out, and I agree with him, the entire section that deals with the illegal, from the whole part of illegal on the CBI program, I want us to strike out that entire. No. There are certain presentations, points he made in regards to his constituency. I did not say anything. So, in regards, again, the member for Roseau North, I'm asking you to maintain proper decorum in this Honorable House before action is being taken against you. Again, member, you can be back on your feet where you are asked to withdraw the entire section as the member, the Honorable Minister of Housing pointed out, and I agree with him.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you're in charge of the House, and you will instruct the stenotypist and the producers of the Hansard what you wish to be struck from the record, because
No. The minister, the minister, you yourself have to say you withdraw. You have to say you withdraw. Not the speaker.
Withdraw what?
Pointed it out to him again, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in addition to what you deemed as improper motives, I'm saying that the section where the member for Marigot, the leader of the opposition, is imputing that there are foreign entities that determine who contests or not contest elections in Dominica.
Withdrawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Withdrawn.
Yes, he said he's withdrawn.
Withdrawn.
Okay.
And those who have control of the passport money, Mr. Speaker, they are deciding how much of it will come into Dominica, how much will be kept overseas, which foreign contractors will,
Speaker,
without competitive bid.
Speaker, it looks like we have to do that for the entire day. There is a clear policy with the CBI program in law.
Yes.
How the monies for the citizenship investment program are apportioned. And the member cannot sit in this house and to say that whoever decides, unless he's prepared to say that the government decides, which is the government deciding, he has to be very clear, or else he has to withdraw that statement too, Mr. Speaker. He has to withdraw it. It's dishonest.
So, member, again,
Abuse of the privileges of
member, Member, again, I agree with the minister, and I'm asking you, in a matter where there is no clarity, it is imputing improper motive. I agree with the member, the minister for housing. So I'm asking you to withdraw that section again.
I wouldn't be surprised if right now you now believe that you cooled the bakery in Portsmouth, you know. Because that was the accusation from the same member for Cottage that you walked out of the parliament for. But all of a sudden, everything he's saying is not true.
But again, continue your debate. Withdraw where we ask you to withdraw in this honorable house.
Yeah, okay. So others are.
Nothing is that is illegal. Shame on you, Mr. Speaker. Shame. That's what happened.
We are.
But.
It is known.
Honorable Leader of Opposition, you are supposed to withdraw before you continue.
What am I supposed to withdraw? I said I withdraw.
Oh, yes, okay.
You don't remember that?
Okay. Let's.
You asked me to withdraw the statement about the bakery in Portsmouth. I withdraw that. I withdraw the bakery.
Member, please continue. At least you show your true colors. Just continue.
Withdraw. At least I show my true colors. Mr. Speaker, what exactly would you mean by that? Huh? No, what exactly do you mean by that? You know, Mr. Speaker, long time, I know you from a long time, you know, and your name for as long, going way back when I met you years ago and I hired you to be industrial engineer for our regional operation.
But member, continue your debate.
Your name was calling him bright. Your name was calling him bright.
You see,
your long time name called him bright, Mr. Speaker. And right now, I'm trying to understand whether you are incapable of drawing a line and making a distinction between a statement of truth and fact and an imputation of improper motives. But we'll leave that for later. Mr. Speaker, I hope I'm permitted to say that regarding the CBI program, we had a situation of two executives involved in the construction of a hotel in the north, smiling all the way to their foreign bank accounts with $60 million US, 163 million EC.
But member, again, you proceed by saying that will you be allowed? But you know you can say that.
Why? What do you mean why?
But you are already imputing improper motive to what? People who are not in this honorable house.
But what is the improper motive that's imputed?
Anyway, continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That's $60 million US, 163 million EC, $81.5 million each from commissions on the passport sales that financed the hotels and their share of the difference between the passport sales and the cost of construction. The signature disgrace of our life and times. Billions of dollars belonging to the people of Dominica, unconstitutionally privatized and diverted to the joint foreign control with foreign controllers of Dominica's passport business. This is not an economy for the people of Dominica. It is being built as a modern-day slave plantation organized for the exclusive wealth creation benefit of a few privileged people. This budget, Mr. Speaker, couldn't care less that the economy is not working for the people. The budget couldn't care less that people's money to finance the growth of the people's economic engines are under absolute foreign control. Mr. Speaker, this budget couldn't care less that the struggle to survive in Dominica is getting harder and harder, this budget couldn't care less about the growing number of Dominicans trapped in poverty and dependency. This budget couldn't care less about the chronic youth unemployment crisis we have in this country. This budget couldn't care less about low wages, rising cost of living. Because it appears to be the strategic plan of those with collective responsibility for the budget to keep the people of Dominica poor, dependent, and enslaved to masses' will. The independence to run our own affairs that we gleefully embraced on the 3rd of November 1978 is working wonders for the multi-billion-dollar benefit of foreign friends of the regime. It is not working for the farmers. It is not working for the fishermen. It is not working for the nurses, the teachers, the police officers, the public officers, the doctors, the lawyers, the businessmen and women, the shopkeepers, the disappearing middle class, the clerks, the carpenters. It is not working for the masons, the electricians, the plumbers. It is not working even for our rich in Dominica, the poor, the unemployed, the youth, the elderly, the leaders of church. It is not working for Dominica. The Nature Island people of Dominica from all walks of life know and understand that in the last 20 years we have been reversing into the dark ages where our ancestors fought against the odds for our freedom, for a Dominica, for Dominicans, for lives that matter. And Mr. Speaker, as we reflect carefully on the necessity of ensuring that our lives in Dominica matter, the United Workers' Party calls on Dominicans to join the movement for real change to save our country. It's a collective national responsibility that commits us to bring an immediate end to the anti-Dominican national policy that places foreign interests above Dominican interests. Stop the relegation of Dominicans to second-class citizens in Dominica, increasingly unable to own land, residential, commercial property, and industry, while foreigners selling Dominican passports are buying up Dominica's prime real estate. It is not right. We have to restore meaning and purpose to all the institutions of state, including the judiciary, local government, the civil service, the Dominica Police Force, statutory corporations, the Integrity Commission, and the Electoral Commission. Electoral reform. Electoral reform. Okay. We need to build a new economic framework driven by the private, public, cooperative, and civil society sectors for the development of the growth engines of agriculture, water, tourism, renewable energy, manufacturing, construction, information communication, technology, and culture. But far from addressing these fundamental requirements of change, this budget and the operation of those before it, particularly those of recent years, further underline the need for real change that will ensure Dominican lives do matter in Dominica. Let's turn now to a few observations on the revenue expenditure performance of the central government last year, because they are relevant for comparison to what is being proposed for this year. We budgeted revenues for 2019-2020 at $818.2 million. $379.5 million was supposed to come from taxes, and from non-tax sources, $438.7 million. The actual performance, we came back with tax revenues of $373.7 million, $5.8 million below budget, 1.5% decline. And on the non-tax revenue side, we came back with $171 million, $267.7 million below budget, or 61%. declined. Personal income tax was down 4.4%. Corporate income tax was up 71%. Property tax up 0.4%. The VAT down 12.1%. Duties down 6.9%. That's on the recurrent side. On the tax side. On the non-tax side, we saw the CBI revenues down 63.8%, and rent and interest 50%, financial services down 77%. Overall, 61% decline. The capital revenue, what we pick up to fund our development projects, those you will see in the public sector investment program. The 2019-2020 budget, $481.8 million. Government would have provided, according to the plan, $292.2 million of that. $72.3 million would come from loans, and $117.3 million would come from grants. What actually happened? Well, instead of $481.8 million, we ended up with $160.8 million, a decline of $321 million. And that's because of the $292.2 expected from the government, only $136.8 million came up. Loans, from $72.3 million, only $2.3 million, $70 million less. And from grants, $117.3 million was the expectation. The actual was $21.7 million. So we came back with only 18% of the grant money we targeted. And guess how much in loans? 3%. 18.3. 18% in grants, 3% in loans, 18.3. You didn't see that? You didn't see that 18.3? So, Mr. Speaker, that means that overall, 67% of the projects that were expected remain undelivered. The public works, did not accomplish 73% of what was set out to do. Housing did not accomplish 67%. Trade, 96%. Environment, 15%. Health, 74%. Education, 94%. Agriculture, 27%. Tourism overachieved, up 73%, and others down 82%. And you know, on May 17, 2020, the Prime Minister announced that the government has so far spent almost $22 million in direct costs in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We don't see this amount in the actual expenditure projections for 2019-2020. What we see is Health Ministry project spending of $6.5 million against a budget of $24.7 million, which is 18.2 million or 74% less than the approved amount. Now, in terms of the tax revenue performance, according to the Prime Minister, there were weaker than expected revenue collections during the third and fourth quarters of fiscal year 2019-2020 as a result of the pandemic. Preliminary data, he said, indicates total revenue fell short of projections by 33.4%. We glean from these numbers, Mr. Speaker, that before the impact of COVID, our revenue collection was $15.6 million ahead of budget. We took a $21.4 million hit from COVID in the last 3 months of the year, leaving us with a revenue shortfall of $5.8 million against the revenue budget. But then we got $37.9 million from the IMF's Rapid Credit Facility, $6.7 million from the Caribbean Development Bank, and $8.2 million from the World Bank's International Development Association, a total of $52.8 million. The loan fund at Aid Bank for bus drivers and other small business owners and service providers was $5 million. The employment cash assistance was $15.7 million, total $20.7 million, to which we add the shortfall of $5.8 million, $26.5 million from the $52.8 million leaves us with $26.3 million. What did we do with it? Or, better question, what do we intend to do with it? Mr. Speaker, issues of trust continue to bedevil the budget process. There is simply too much money belonging to the people of Dominica that are unaccounted for, despite numerous questions in this honorable House.
Member, you are imputing improper motive if you saying it is unaccounted for. So where is it?
I'm coming to explain that.
No, but I don't want you to make a statement like that in this honorable House. It is misleading. People who are listening.
You want me to withdraw it?
Yes, withdraw it.
Withdraw.
Okay.
On November 21st, 2017, Venezuela forgave $100 million US, 270 million EC dollars, of Dominica's debt under the Petro-Caribe arrangement. That statement is, that's okay?
No, before you continue, I want to know in regards to, you know, the rules in regards to relevance. So what is the relevance to 2020, 2021 budget?
I'm talking about...
Because again, again, in the standing order, there is the clause or the standing order which deals with repetitiveness. That there was already distilled and debated in this honorable House by yourself.
Mr. Speaker,
you remember that?
I'm dealing with the issue of context, and relevance is about context. I have made the statement, which you've asked me to withdraw, that there are monies that are unaccounted for. These are public funds. Whether they emerged in 2014 or 15 or 16 or 2002, they are public funds. And we cannot say that when the year expires, because there's no accounting for those funds on which the year expires.
Honorable member, please take your seat a sec. Let me just explain something to you. You are the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee for many years. There was nothing brought to this honorable House in regards to a conclusive decision or agreement on any matter dealing with monies, whether unaccounted for or not accounted for, accounted for. You have a role and responsibility as the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee over those years. So you cannot now come in this honorable House in 2020, 2021, alleging that something is missing, but you have not done anything or take any action in regards to your role and responsibility as the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. So then the honorable House could make a decision. So I'm asking you that you remain online with your debate and do not go in this direction. Please, please, I'm asking you. And all these asides, we have to stop it in this honorable House. There's again a standing order which speaks in regards to disrespect in this honorable House. I'll allow you to continue, but be guided by these statements I made, and stay online. We remember relevance.
Mr. Speaker, we asked in this Honorable House, at the time of the debt cancellation and subsequently in Parliament, May 2018, for a full accounting of the money the Prime Minister finally accepted Dominica owes Venezuela after telling this Parliament the country had no such debt. We asked who received the Venezuela loan and how and when and into what account it was received. We asked what was the loan money used for and on behalf of Dominica, and what is the balance available from the loan funds as at the date of forgiveness, and how soon will the entity holding the loan from Venezuela to present a check to government for the $100 million less any amounts legitimately spent for and on behalf of Dominica? Yeah, we are still waiting for answers. The Minister of Finance told us in this Parliament on May 1st, 2018.
Again, but, oh Lord, man. You see...
Mr. Speaker, we are
No, member, hold on again. My intention is not to be there interacting with you. Just deliver your speech, bearing in mind, inputting in proper motives, relevance. You are in this Honorable House for over 5 years. I don't have to point that out to you. I just indicated to you that we are in 2020, 2021. You are telling me that you dealt with it before, but you want to come in the Honorable House and discuss it again.
I am making a point that we are in a budget discussion, we are in a budget debate, where all sorts of promises are being made and all sorts of allocations of monies are being made. And I'm pointing out, which is important for the people of Dominica in consideration of what's going on with the stewardship of their affairs, that we are not dealing in the budget cycle or in parliamentary oversight with this matter of monies about which questions are asked, but there is no answer. The Prime Minister told us in Parliament on May 1st, 2018, Mr. Speaker, quote, the cancellation of the debt, the 100 million which Venezuelans have indicated.
But what is the relevance of this with the debate?
I am coming to that, Mr. Speaker. And I urge you not to be impatient. I'm coming to that.
I've been very patient.
I am dealing with the question.
Just hold on, member. What I would like is you not to go in that direction so you can continue your debate. That's all. I mean, that's all. It's 2021. Yes, it's a parliament.
Parliament is to speak.
But that, honorable member. Member, this is... Honorable member, this is the last time I'm going to allow that what you are doing here. You are shouting at the top of your voice. You are disrespecting the chair, or trying to, because I'm not fazed by that. You'll have your turn to debate. No, you'll have, again, disrespect again.
Stop disrespecting the leader of the opposition. Let him present. The Prime Minister wasn't disturbed at all. Let him develop his point.
Are you done? Because you are distracting the leader of opposition. Continue, and I guided you. So just continue.
The guidance is what exactly, Mr. Speaker? Don't talk about the $100 million. That's the guidance? Is that the guidance?
No, the guidance is we are debating the 2020-2021 budget presentation. That's what we're doing. In regards to what happened years ago, that's not relevant unless you put context with the numbers.
But you don't want me to develop the context with the numbers. The minute you hear what's going down, you intervene.
Remember, I don't want to be part of your debate. Continue.
Okay, thank you very much. So you don't want to hear anything further about Venezuela, the Venezuela debt? $100 million US, 270 million EC. You don't want to hear anything about. You don't want to hear anything about it.
And by this, I remind you that you started at 10:10 and your time is running. So just continue.
We have civil war in this country. Anytime people cannot speak in this house, we will have civil war. Not as a joke.
Now-
I'm so there, all outside there. It's because
Now-
you know what you're doing, you know. We will have civil war in this country. People must be allowed to speak in this house. Elected members must be allowed to speak in this house. This foolishness must stop.
Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, there was a statement from the Prime Minister that government is moving ahead with the construction of an international airport. We see in the estimates an amount of $7 million that's going to be spent in this financial year on the airport project. And in the next 2 financial years, $40 million equally split over the 2 years, $20 million each. Those monies will come from grants, and the $7 million to be spent this year is going to come from the government resources. Now, on that point, I have to go back, Mr. Speaker, to May of 2017, when the Prime Minister told this Honorable House that his government had capitalized the Airport Development Fund with an initial amount of $10 million US and would be placing $5 million US in that account monthly thereafter from the sale of Dominican citizenship. At June 30th, 2020, the amount in that account should be 526 million EC dollars, based on what the Prime Minister told the Parliament in May of 2017. We would like to see the accounting for it. We heard the boast in the 2019 election campaign that this is the only party in government that has set aside money for the construction of an international airport. Where is the money? All we hear now is that the airport will be built by China. Land is going to be purchased for $57 million, we learned yesterday, and those purchases will commence in this budget year for 213 landowners. What happened to the $526 million that is supposed to be in the airport development account? I'm coming back to the citizenship by investment revenues for 2019-2020 because we have spoken about the decline in revenues for last year. And the revenue picture for citizenship by investment in 2019-2020, ending June last month, tell us that under the Economic Diversification Fund, where the government was expecting and budgeted to collect $380 million, the amount was only $113.06 million. And we have application fees and due diligence fees and fees for certificate of naturalization that took the budgeted amount up to $417 million, but it came back in the actual at $151.1 million. Mr. Speaker, the numbers given to us in these estimates of expenditure for 2020-2021, and which we seek to approve today, give us as well the comparative figures for the year just ended, 2019-2020. And these revenue numbers indicate that 4,000 persons bought Dominican citizenship in 2019-2020. The revenue due to the state of Dominica on the sale of 4,000 citizenships is approximately $577 million. Now, only $151 million came into the consolidated fund, which leaves a balance out there somewhere of $426 million. In his 1850 essay, Ce qu'on voit et ce qu'on ne voit pas, that which we see, that which we don't see, French economist and author Frédéric Bastiat introduced the parable of the broken window to illustrate why destruction and the money spent to recover from destruction is not actually a net benefit to society. Bastiat, who developed the concept of opportunity cost, used the parable to show how opportunity cost, as well as the law of unintended consequences, affect economic activity in ways that are unseen or ignored. Consequently, the belief that destruction is good for the economy became known as the broken window fallacy. Many moons ago, Frédéric Bastiat said, and I quote, "When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that justifies it." In my response to the July 30th, 2019 budget presentation of the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, I noted the report in the official estimates that money collected from the CBI in 2018-2019 was $226 million. It was $80.6 million, or 44% less than the budgeted amount of $406 million. Now, Mr. Speaker, you read on the CBI website, quote, "To be eligible for citizenship in the Commonwealth of Dominica under the Citizenship by Investment Program, you must make either a contribution to the Economic Diversification Fund, EDF, amounting to a minimum of US $100,000 for a single applicant, and increasing depending on the number of dependents included in the application, or an investment in designated real estate with a value of at least US $200,000. The government says the Economic Diversification Fund was established through the Citizenship by Investment Program as one component of a national capital mobilization portfolio with the goal of national development for Dominica. Generated funds are utilized for public and private sector projects where a need is identified. Public sector projects identified for financing under the program include, but are not limited to, the building of schools, hospital renovations, and the building of national sports stadium. With respect to private sector projects, government's focus is on tourism, information technology, and agriculture. We also learn from the CBI website that to qualify for citizenship under the EDF option, the following contribution amounts are required depending on the number of dependents included in the application. Single applicant, non-refundable contribution of US $1,000. Main applicant and spouse, a non-refundable contribution of US $175,000. The average for those two would be $87,500. Main applicant with up to 3 qualifying dependents, a non-refundable contribution of US $200,000. The average person, $50,000. And any qualifying dependent of the main applicant, other than the spouse, a non-refundable contribution of US $25,000 per dependent. Under the real estate option, you pay your $200,000, and there is a fee of US $25,000 for single applicant, US $35,000 for the main applicant applied if it's her spouse, and US $50,000 for family of up to 6 persons, including the main applicant and up to 5 dependents. According to the March 14, 2019 edition of Dominica's Official Gazette, there were 3,961 persons who received Dominican citizenship over the 5-month period of August to December of 2018. We observed in this Parliament last year that the revenues from the overall sale of citizenship in Dominica should have been in the region of $1.291 billion, which was $1.065 billion more than the $226 million reported for the full year. So we asked, and the people have been asking, where's the money? Now, we will all recall that there was no response from the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance in this Parliament, even though he needed an extra 30 minutes to conclude his 20-minute wrap-up of the 2019 budget debate in which the question was raised. But on Thursday, 8th August 2019, the Prime Minister disclosed on Kyrie FM radio that there is a housing option to acquiring Dominican citizenship, which was previously unknown to the people of Dominica. I quote the Prime Minister. In respect to the housing, there was a special dispensation. So it is not under the real estate. It is treated somewhat like the Economic Diversification Fund, so the fees applicable to the housing are the fees if you were to invest in the EDF, the government's direct monetary option. Now, Mr. Speaker, under this previously unknown citizenship by investment option, Montreal Management Company, without competitive bid or public tender, has an arrangement under which it is directly funding the construction of houses with money from the Citizenship by Investment program.
You would be aware of the rule where you cannot really call a name or a company who really is not in a position to defend the answer.
Withdrawn.
Nice.
For the avoidance of doubt, Mr. Speaker, all monies from the Economic Diversification Fund go into the state treasury. The fees for the housing program are the same as the EDF option, but the revenue stream has been privatized into control outside of the formal structure of the government. The Prime Minister and Minister of Finance says, quote, the housing program is now the premier program because it invokes a certain consciousness on the part of investors to know that they're helping somebody in Dominica with their investment to be in a home, recognizing the impact of Tropical Storm Erica and recognizing the impact of Hurricane on Dominica. If we did not have the housing program, and if we only had Range and the Marriott, you would see a dramatic number in terms of revenue for the government. The housing program, the Prime Minister says, quote, is doing better than the fund option. So the Prime Minister's housing program is taking CBI revenues that would normally come through the EDF option and bringing them through housing, but those housing monies are not coming into the consolidated fund as the EDF, even though housing is public business in Dominica. Again, I quote the Prime Minister. If we did not have this project and we had this agent, MMCE, selling for Dominica, all this money would have been part of revenue in the consolidated fund. But what you have with the real estate and the housing, you have an escrow account. These money is going to the development and therefore can't be part of the revenue. And Mr. Speaker, what the Prime Minister is making clear here is that himself, the Minister of Finance, and the operatives of Montreal Management are the ones in control of the funds from the housing option of the CBI, charged, collected, and received for and on behalf of the government and people of Dominica from the sale of Dominican citizenship. Any and all revenues collected in respect of sale of Dominican citizenship can only logically be considered public money. The arrangement between the Prime Minister and MMCE to collect, bank, disburse, and distribute outside of the consolidated fund public monies collected from the sale of Dominican passports for the purpose of public housing in Dominica jumps the fence of executive authority to trespass on the sacred constitutional ground of the legislature. Section 76 of the Constitution, the Supreme Law of Dominica, provides, and I quote, all revenues or other monies raised or received by Dominica, not being revenues or other monies that are payable by or under any other law for the time being enforced in Dominica, into some other fund established for a specific purpose, shall be paid into and from a consolidated fund. The Finance Administration Act of 1994, we're dealing with legalities now, defines public money as all revenues or other monies raised or received for the purpose of government and any monies or funds held, whether temporarily or otherwise, by any officer in his official capacity, either alone or jointly with any other person, whether or not that person is an officer. The Act provides.
Remember, you have 33 more minutes. I just guiding, so you.
How many?
33 more minutes.
How many minutes are you going to add back for the interruption, Mr. Speaker?
Well, I'll talk to the members, but I'm willing to allow you extra 5 minutes for the back and forth.
Back 5?
Yeah.
Thanks,
All right.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
So it's 33 plus 5, but I'll allow you the extra 5.
Okay, thanks.
All right, okay.
The Act provides in Section 7, there shall be one revenue fund, which shall be called the Consolidated Fund. And in Section 8, it says, subject to the Constitution and except as otherwise provided for in this Act, all revenues and other monies raised or received for the purpose of government, not being revenue or other monies payable into some other fund established for a specific purpose, shall be paid into and form part of the consolidated fund. What this means is the rule of law in Dominica provides for due consideration and parliamentary approval of revenue collection and expenditure authorization with open and full disclosure to the public on whose behalf the public monies are collected and disbursed. These revenues, raised from the Citizenship by Investment Program of the State of Dominica for housing for the State of Dominica, are public funds and properly belong in the Treasury, the Consolidated Fund of the State of Dominica. There is no law requiring such revenues to be paid into some other fund established for a specific purpose. Accordingly, the exception that is provided at Section 76 of the Constitution and Section 8 of the Finance Administration Act does not apply. The CBI housing funds belong to the people of Dominica and must be received into and disbursed from the consolidated fund. So, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the financial year 2018-2019, we estimated that the public revenues were short by as much as $1 billion, and the Prime Minister agreed. This is his quotation in that interview in August on Kyrie FM. Every one of these houses that we are building under the CBI program belongs to the state 100%. So this is state asset. So otherwise, if we did not have the housing, or if we did not go with the housing program in the way that we went, all of those revenues would go to the state, and therefore it would form part of the estimates or the public sector investment program. Had we included this in the estimates, the budget would not have been $1 billion, it would be about $2.2 billion. So $2.2 billion minus the budget of $1 billion is equal to $1.2 billion. That was the Prime Minister's estimate on public radio of the revenue shortfall into the consolidated fund for the financial year 2018-2019. To that $1.2 billion from 2018-2019, we now add $426 million, similarly kept out of the consolidated fund for 2019-2020. The total amount of the passport revenues that we would like to see an accounting for in the last 2 financial years is $1.6 billion. 1 year ago, the following information was requested from the government on public funds from the CBI program for each of the 3 financial years ending June 30th, 2019. We wanted to know the number of citizenships approved, broken down by Economic Development Fund, real estate, housing, and any other citizenship access option. We wanted to know the amount of money paid for the approved citizenships, broken down by Economic Development Fund, real estate, housing, and any other citizenship classification. We wanted the receipts, the disbursements, and the year-end balances for all special trust funds, escrow accounts, and other funds operating with money derived from or connected to citizenship by investment.
Member, I just want to remind you and remind this honorable House that you are the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee.
No, this wasn't a letter. This wasn't a letter from the Public Accounts Committee chairman to the Financial Secretary.
Oh, but you didn't say that. You didn't say that.
Well, I'm saying no. I was hoping you would intervene, so I could say
no. So I just wanted to just point out.
This was a letter from the Public Accounts Committee.
Member, hold on 1 second. I wanted to point out to this honorable House and also to the general public that as the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, you have a legal parliamentary responsibility that if you think that $200,000 is missing, $20 is missing, or $1.6 billion is missing, that you convene an investigation based on audited statements of the government system. And you proceed from there, table it in this honorable House, a debate will pursue, and then we'll find out what the truth is. But I just wanted to point that out because I don't want us to misguide the public and Parliament.
Yeah, but I just
and remember, in the opening session of this honorable House, we appointed 4 members to the Public Accounts Committee. So I'm asking you just proceed with your debate, but bear that in mind, and I pointing that out to the general public and members of this honorable House.
And I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But let me also say that these questions were sent to the Financial Secretary by the chair of the Public Accounts Committee as the starting point of the very same investigation that you're talking about should happen. What happened? The chairman of the Public Accounts Committee was insulted and ridiculed by the financial secretary. And we left it there. 1 year later, 12 months, 52 weeks, there has been no response. I received the letter, Mr. Attorney General, and I'm saying that the letter was insultive. That's my opinion. You want to correct my opinion? 1 year later, 12 months, 52 weeks, we have no response. Nonetheless, we see the creation of an entity called Housing Dominica, a department in the Citizenship by Investment Unit, operating in association with MMC, which appears to have carte blanche to develop health centers and to finance them with CBI housing revenues that are not in the consolidated fund. This initiative, in which MMC, without public tender or competitive bid, has exclusive privilege to exclude
Again, remember you withdrew calling the name of a company, but you come back on it.
In which a company?
So remember, could you withdraw?
Yeah. I'm withdrawing MMC.
Yeah.
Because the Speaker does not want me to say MMC in the Parliament,
yeah.
so I'm withdrawing MMC.
So
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, a moment ago I was seeking to intervene. I wonder if the honourable member would take a seat. I was indicating and seeking to do so and hoping to get, by way of consent as it were, a recognition by the honourable member from Marigot that it was inappropriate that he was directly making a statement in respect to a public officer, a derogatory and accusatory statement, for which he provided absolutely no supporting evidence. The Financial Secretary is not in the House and not able to defend his or herself, in this instance, herself. And that is the point that I was seeking to draw to the member's attention, and I would have expected that he would have recognized that, and I think I was seeking to draw it to your attention also. I know that we do not want to intervene and disrupt the contribution of the member, but at the same time, I think that, as far as I'm concerned, is a more meritorious reason for intervention than some of the other interventions that we've had this morning.
I agree with the Attorney General. No. You are aware of the rule that we can identify who is the Financial Secretary. So even if you did not call the name, so I'm asking you to withdraw it. I agree. The Attorney General is indicating that the statement. Yes. No, you didn't. You said it's an opinion, but what you said first. Yeah.
You are asking me to withdraw the expression of an opinion in this honorable House that a letter I received as chairman of the Public Accounts Committee in response to a letter sent to the Financial Secretary was...
No, you said about disrespect. Yeah, you actually said disrespect.
Yes, I said...
So I'll allow you to intervene. Yes.
If I may, what I heard the member say was that the letter, he received a response which was insulting, and I don't recall the other, but to make that statement in the midst of a budget contribution without any basis, and the member didn't say it was his opinion, and even if he tried to clothe it in that, miniskirt, it wouldn't protect what he said.
I'm saying,
Chair, Mr. Speaker, we now see this entity called Housing Dominica, separate and apart from the Ministry of Housing, operating under the Citizenship by Investment program and having carte blanche to develop health centers and finance them with CBI housing revenues that appear not to be going into and coming out of the consolidated fund. And we understand why. Now, in this initiative, a certain company, without competitive bid or public tender, has the exclusive privilege to exclude Dominican builders from the construction of any of the health centers. And we are told that the partners of Housing Dominica are the government of Dominica, the Citizenship by Investment Unit, Montreal Management Consultants, and Mr. Speaker, I'm reading from the website of Housing Dominica, NH International Caribbean Limited, China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister made mention of 4 of the health centers yesterday that are completed. But these health centers are not in the government's public sector investment program. This is not opposition work. This is the work of the government. These programs, these projects that the Prime Minister said were completed, 4 of them, and work ongoing on another 7 or 8. None of this is in the government's public sector investment program, either for this year or for any of the other 3 years covered by the public sector investment program. And, Mr. Speaker, it means they are being built under a funding arrangement that is a stranger to the consolidated fund and repugnant to the constitutional rule of law. The Prime Minister and Minister of Finance has departed from the requirements of Section 76 of the Constitution and Section 8 of the Finance Administration Act in this imposition of executive authority and usurpation of parliamentary oversight responsibility that deprives the people of Dominica of mandatory constitutional provisions for the control and for the safeguard of public money. And I will quote Adrian Saunders, the President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, because we believe on this side that the improper exercise of executive powers or the abuse of executive authority cannot and will not be allowed to supersede the clear provisions of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Dominica, our supreme law. President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Mr. Adrian Saunders, has already made it crystal clear, and I quote, Caribbean courts, as part of their general function of judicial review, have a constitutional obligation to strike down administrative or executive action that exceeds jurisdiction or undermines the authority of the legislature. Let's add up now the billions that we would like to see an accounting for. And hopefully it can come in the context of this debate because we have a number of ministers of government who are in the cabinet and take collective responsibility for the output of the cabinet. We have revenues from the CBI revenues from the 2018, 2019, and 2019-20 financial year together, 1.626 billion. Transfers to the airport development account from May of 2017, $526 million. The Venezuela debt forgiveness, $270 million. A total of $2.4 billion, or $2,400 million. And I want to ask the question, Mr. Speaker, what really is the purpose of a national budget approval exercise in Parliament, where such significant sums of money belonging to the people remain outside of the People's Consolidated Fund and beyond the reach of parliamentary oversight? Which small island economy can survive the diversion of this much public money into private control? On or about the 9th of June 2020, Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet of Dominica met and authorized the rental of a property from Mercury Properties Development Limited for the accommodation of the Prime Minister. The amount authorized is $32,000 per month, $384,000 per year. This amount is not included in the 2020-2021 expenditure estimates now before this House for approval, or at least not under the head D30, Office of the Prime Minister, Program Code D30, M100 M17, Prime Minister's official residence. But we find under that head, in this budget here, an amount of $387,598 to cover wages, supplies and materials, operating and maintenance services, professional and consultancy services, insurance, sundry expenses, and other machinery and equipment. This puts the annual cost to the state for the property at Mount Daniel, where the Prime Minister will reside, at $771,598 per year, or $64,300 per month. $771,598 per year, $64,300 per month. This is a very serious matter. It is now settled law.
Mr. Speaker.
Let me.
Mr. Speaker, while I do not want to raise any major objection, I'd just like to give notice that during the course of the debate, I would like to...
One second. Member, two members cannot be up or sitting at the same time. Yeah. But he's healing. Just take it.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I would like to beg permission of the chair that during the course of this debate, that matter which is now being dealt with by the leader of the opposition, which he knows to be incorrect, and it is a move to deceive and to spread wrong information to the public, that I'll be given an opportunity, or this side of the House will be given an opportunity to correct that malicious and vicious misinformation being dealt to the people of this country by the leader of the opposition. We have 3 doctors in the House, my brother. When you're ready for your medication, just ask. Yeah. On our side. We have 3 doctors on our side. So when you're ready for your medication, just ask us and we'll assist you.
Okay, member, continue.
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the Minister's commitment to deal with the issues of truth and fact insofar as it concerns the expenses for the Prime Minister's official residence in this budget year, 2020-2021. Because it is now settled law in the region that the decision of Cabinet under certain circumstances is subject to judicial review, and the parliamentary opposition believes that the Cabinet's exercise of its power to rent a palatial property for the Prime Minister that will cost the state over $750,000 per year is reviewable on the grounds of illegality, irrationality, and procedural impropriety. I'm stating that for the record of the Parliament. Because the Constitution provides, at Section 65, that a minister or parliamentary secretary shall not enter upon the duties of his office unless he has taken and subscribed to the oath of allegiance, the oath of office, the oath of secrecy. The Cabinet of Ministers is therefore sworn to honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Dominica and to faithfully execute the duties of ministerial office without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. And I invite them today to search their conscience and their soul on this matter. I want to observe as well that the Constitution provides at Section 77 for parliamentary approval of all expenditure from the public purse. At the time of the Cabinet decision to rent the Mount Daniel residence for the Prime Minister, $32,000 monthly, there was no request for parliamentary approval, and therefore no parliamentary approval for this particular charge on the public funds. The Finance and Administration Act and the Procurement Act provide regulations against wasteful, uneconomical spending in the procurement of public services. This means, in effect, that the rule of law demands adherence to the command of Parliament that spending of public funds must reflect value for money. Now, Mr. Speaker, this matter of the official residence of the Prime Minister is extremely important. I want to share with you now what we have heard on this matter so far. And remember, the Minister has said he's going to come to clarify and tell the truth. That Minister has already said on the public record, and I quote him here in this Parliament today, it's the Prime Minister's fault why today we are having that debate. Because in the last Cabinet, the Cabinet sat and took a decision to build a house for the Prime Minister of the country. And the Prime Minister, in his good wisdom, said to the Cabinet that he was not going to undertake that project to build a house for the Prime Minister because there were too many Dominicans still recovering from Tropical Storm Erika. Fair enough. Tropical Storm Erika and Hurricane Maria. He said, no, he was not going to do it. The Prime Minister traveled out of the state. I was chairing the Cabinet meeting. The Prime Minister had rescinded the first Cabinet decision. In his absence, we took a decision to bring that back in Cabinet and to take another Cabinet decision and to instruct the committee to go ahead with the designs and plans for residence for the Prime Minister. When Skerrit come back, Skerrit overturned that Cabinet decision that we had taken in his absence. I hope when the Minister stands to address this Parliament, he will refer to these words, which are on the public record now, in the public domain of Dominica. The nation also heard, Mr. Speaker, from the National Security Minister, Rayburn Blackmore, who told the people of Dominica that he is the chairman of the Cabinet subcommittee. These are his words, quote, there were 3 Cabinet decisions taken prior to Hurricane Maria. There was a Cabinet subcommittee and a technical subcommittee to look into the possibility of constructing an official residence for the occupier of that office of Prime Minister, whoever that person might be. Then came Hurricane Maria, and at a time when we actually had to provide shelter for mostly every Dominican, the Prime Minister felt we should discontinue that process, which we did. And what is happening now is to provide an interim accommodation for the occupier of the office pending the construction of an official residence. At no point in all of these conversations on public radio have they said that the rental amount for the property is not $32,000. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Skerrit says yes, it's $32,000, and he'll be the first person to admit that $32,000 in any currency is a lot of money, but it seems as though they want him to live in a banana shed. So if the house does not cost $32,000 a month to rent in today's Dominica, you live in a banana shed. How many banana shed people we have in the house? Banana shed people in the house, raise your hand. Oh, all in better than banana shed, man. Okay. All right. And Mr. Blackmore continues, you know. And what is happening now is to provide an interim accommodation for the occupier of the office. Pending.
Yeah? Just an alert. You started at 10:10. It's 11:49. As for the time there, you're supposed to end at 11:54. I allow 5 more minutes, so you have about approximately 9 more minutes.
So what the time is now?
11:49.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so Mr. Blackmore, and I can say to you that work has begun because the design has been formulated to commence with the actual construction of proper accommodation for the occupier of the office of Prime Minister. Where is the money for that? Where's the money? You are making no request for any money, but you're telling the people of Dominica that you're going to build a residence for the Prime Minister. And Mr. Speaker, this property is being spoken about all over Dominica. Because you would understand, Mr. Speaker, we live in a country where you have an entire public service, people working for the state doing their best, and you have in that public service over 1,500 persons who do not know what $32,000 a year is. They do not know what $32,000 a year is. More than half of the people working in Dominica do not